Hey everyone, Joshua Kirk here with you once again, and now it's time for episode 201 of Album of the Day, in which for today's album review, I'm going to be reviewing the latest album from a Brooklyn-based indie rock / punk rock outfit that formed sometime around 2010, and has certainly gotten some critical acclaim off of a good chunk of their discography. Today I'm talking about the band known as Parquet Courts, which you may have known I've reviewed these guys before their previous record, Human Performance, and now I'm here to review their latest album, which came out recently on May 18th of 2018. The album is called Wide Awake, and as you can see, I own this on vinyl. And I have to say, this is definitely one of the best album covers of 2018, in my opinion, which the band's co-founder, Andrew Savage, actually does all the artwork, so of course it's really cool. There's the back. This is on indie label Rough Trade, which has also, which is pretty well known for putting out the UK and international releases of a lot of very iconic indie records. And there's 13 tracks on the album, even though it's listed as 14 songs, because there's like two short songs that transition into one another, and it's over 38 minutes long. And this is a pretty cool collector's edition type vinyl that I have here. It has this giant life-size lyric booklet. Really nice painting right here. Really nice artwork of all the band members right there. It's in this really nice Rough Trade logo sleeve, which I think that's a variant of that logo that's like hand-drawn by the band, which I think is really cool. There's side A. And then there's side B. And that's the vinyl packaging for the new Parquet Courts record, Wide Awake. Now, as you may remember, I did a review of Parquet Courts' previous record last year. The album was called Human Performance. And, at the time, I definitely, loved the album and stuff like that. But, as time passed, I sort of found my interest in this band for a little while, sort of waning a little bit, so I wasn't really so sure about this album that they were about to release. But I heard a lot of really good things about this album, so I decided to check it out, and I'm very pleased to say I'm glad that I did, because, in my opinion, this is Parquet Courts' best album to date, and actually, in my opinion, my favorite record of 2018 so far, so bold statement right there. I feel that this is the band's most rewarding, urgent, intelligent, nuanced, and accessible record to date. There's a little bit of a change for the band here on this record. First off, they worked with an outside producer for the first time on this record, that being Brian Burton, aka Danger Mouse, which I'm very surprised how well his production works on this album, because some of his other records that he's produced in the last few years were kind of a disappointment for me because he kind of overdid things a little bit on those other projects that he did. Right off the bat, from the first track, Total Football, you definitely know you're in for a very special record here with Wide Awake. Not only does the song have great punk rock energy to it and a really good bass line, but also its lyrics definitely right off the bat just kind of suck you in because Andrew Savage is obviously trying to make making a commanding statement here. Right from the opening line, we are conductors of sound, heat, and energy, and I bet that you had us figured out right from the start. And sort of asking questions like, "Are you quite done now?" And the answer is not at all, as he sort of addresses how we're kind of in a tumultuous political state right now. And I love that part at the end where he shouts all these very memorable sayings as the rest of the band has this really peppy chant in the background of Beatles, Total Football, stuff like that. Football. And I especially love that statement that Andrew Savage spits out at the end of the track that goes, bleep, Tom Brady, sort of taking a jab at Trumpism and stuff like that. Because that was actually inspired by something that he had actually said while the band was at a bar one night and Andrew Savage sung something for karaoke, and right after it was over, that's what he said, and right through the microphone in front of everybody, which he said it felt good. Danger Mouse's production definitely does come through quite a bit on the following track, Violence, with all these really cool ethereal keyboard stylings along with these kind of odd pitch shifted vocal samples that come in on that kind of odd bridge. But the experimentation really works over that catchy bass line and Andrew Savage's vocal delivery, which almost kind of reminds me of rapping a little bit because he's not so much singing these lyrics, but rather kind of basically speaking his mind. The way that he says his lyrics here is definitely very enticing. And fits with his lyrics, which sort of talk about how violence is sort of really affecting our country and our people to the point where it seems like they're practically exposing images to us on TV every day that some viewers may find disturbing, as Andrew Savage says in the lyrics. And one of my favorite lines that he says on here is, "Savage is my name, because savage is how I feel." And it also has kind of an odd, but yet very, sort of immediate chorus to it. As he likens violence to a cause, an effect, a rejoice, a regret, and the band has this really catchy chant of "Violence is daily life," and then he's also likening it to a promise and a pact that the world never kept. And of course, the song has this really cool keyboard improv at the end. It transitions really well into "Before the Water Gets Too High," which opens up with a really nice omnichord, which is paired with bass and a drum machine, which is yet another departure for the band right there, the drum machine used on here. And I think, and this song sort of talks a little bit about kind of problems with our water system a little bit. In fact, I'm pretty sure I'm hearing references here to the lead-infused water of Flint, Michigan. That's become a problem for the last few years or so. And the worst part is that no one's really done anything about it yet that's worked. Yeah, like as they say in lines like as they say in lines such as state TV helps the public explain, broadcast beamed into the dry terrain, images of drenched survival, without hope but soaked with pain. That's basically what's going on in places such as Flint, Michigan, in terms of their water system, and whatnot. And also, the song also has some other really cool elements musically, like that kind of, like that lovely sort of dry, spaghetti western inspired guitar. And also really like that sort of echo effects going on with the drums on the song too. I mean, like Kenny Takashi's mixing on here really does work really well amongst these elements. And the song is basically about trying to get things right before the water gets too high to float the powers that be. Or is it someone else's job until the rich are refugees? Very smart question right there. Austin Brown's first composition is by far one of his most mature to date, Mardi Gras Beats. And this song has a little bit of a Beatles-inspired sort of melody in the verses, but it still definitely has Parquet Courts' own unique twist to it. As is shown once the chorus comes in. And it has that really cool rhythmic guitar solo, and the way the guitars, bass, and drums syncopate with one another on here works really nicely on here. Here and it's just so satisfying to hear Austin Brown come out with a poetic line like, "Smiling all the while, the paint chips off of my Mardi Gras beads," sort of making reference to he actually does wear some purple Mardi Gras beads now on stage. The song "Almost Had to Start a Fight" is another one that right from the opening lines and the opening riff really does pull you in with some great energy and passion. Savage's vocals have kind of a decisiveness on here that I really like to his lyrics, sort of talking about how he almost had to start a fight, but he doesn't quite know how to react, so he just decides not to because he feels it's smart to just not waste all his energy on some issues that are going on with society right now. Now, even though he does say stuff like "caught up in our morbid modern lives," and sort of saying you should adapt to the void, then if you must, and sort of wondering if he's grown tired of being polite, and polite, which leads him to ask himself also, why am I searching for reason? And this song has a really cool sort of transition that it makes into "In and Out of Patience," which shows a really cool tempo change. Here. Change. I mean, it's pretty cool how we have the tempo of this first short song, which eventually goes into "If it stops, I'm having a bad dream." Dream. And one of my favorite lines here is, "All I got left is this shit attitude. At least music is playing in my head." which goes really well over some kind of nervously energetic riffs, along with some shouted gang vocals that sound really nice on here too. And I think it's funny how the song ends with some crowd noise and Andrew Savage saying, "This next one is called Freebird 2," and then it transitions into Freebird 2, the next track here, which is definitely one of Andrew Savage's most mature, but definitely one of his best compositions to date. And also his vocal melody makes his lyrics here that much more listenable, in my opinion. Which this song definitely does show there's the band's skill with melody here. Normalization is probably one of the odder tracks on the record. But it also does have some very simple yet very effective lyrics, like faced with a decision, what do I call bullshit? A contemporary dilemma, can I allow this? Not only is the song odd in terms of it having a kind of unconventional melody, but it also has this strange bridge which features like these different synth effects that sound really nice over the bass and drums here. Some drums here, which eventually goes into the song "Back to Earth," which is probably one of the least punk-inspired tracks on here. It definitely sounds more inspired by electronic rock almost. It's got these very beautiful, if a little odd, keyboards that really do color the track nicely. Along with some kind of sequenced piano. It almost reminds me a little bit of like some of the production he's done with his Broken Bells project with James Mercer of the Shins, but better in my opinion, as I'm not really a big Broken Bells person. It also has kind of a Latin bossa nova feel to it, which definitely does see, again, Parquet Courts' own unique twist. And its lyrics are definitely pretty dark, because they do sort of reflect on death a little bit, especially once you get to that kind of melancholy final verse. As he said, there ain't no one living no more. No choice but to buy all your own time, spend all your money at the casket store. But also adding a sense of optimism when he says, get love while you find it. Where you find it, it's the only fist that we have to fight with. And soon you're headed back to Earth. Which his kind of monotone vocals have this really cool echo effect that sort of eventually sounds like it's sequenced through an echoplex. Once it gets to that really cool keyboard bridge. The title track, "Wide Awake," is easily one of the most fun here on the album, which is shown in its production, which contains a lot of which contains all this really cool hand percussion. There's like congas and plenty of cowbell and some bell and timbales as well, along with plenty of whistles that come in right after the first stanza, right after the first verse of the song. Which basically the verses are basically this one catchy little verse repeated a couple of times but it's enough to leave an impression when Andrew Savage yells, my mind's so woke 'cause my brain never pushed the brakes. It has a really nice guitar and bass hook on there as well. Hook on Bell. It's just a really fun song. Definitely one of the highlights of the album. The song, and then we have a really cool transition between two songs here. The second time this happens on the album with New York City Observation and Extinction. And the first song sees Andrew Savage wondering if this New York City Observation here is just a swan song wildly ahead of itself, but you never listen. But then also adding, but you never did listen to the music, did you? Did you? Did you? And it's done over some really nice, kind of simple yet energetic guitar and bass riffs. Then the following track, Extinction, actually, this is probably one of the, in my opinion, the only track that I think would fit in closely with some of Parquet Courts' older catalog. I mean, Light Up Gold, this song would fit in probably pretty well in the Light Up Gold track listing a little bit. And of course it can't get any more Andrew Savage than lines like, feel a buzz that can't be bottled, smoked, or canned. The next song, Death Will Bring Change, has almost a little bit of a jazz feel to it, almost with its piano that sounds like it was recorded in a grand hall. Some really cool kind of jazz inspired drumming on the song too. Some really beautiful guitar solos occurring in this track too. And another big change for the band here on this track is the use of a children's choir, which somehow really manages to work here, because I know sometimes children's choirs can be kind of obnoxious, but here on this track, it actually really works. All the different voices sort of making this sound almost gospel-ish, which I do really like. And it definitely is one of the darkest songs on the record lyrically. As you can see from the title, it definitely does touch on themes of death and whatnot, and how it kind of brings change for people. And also it has a really, and also I do love the chorus. The melody with Austin Brown's lead vocals and the lower backing vocals and the children's choir, it creates this very beautiful, heavenly sort of melody as he sings. The bottom of this well is rich with bitter water. Right after some kind of quiet studio banter, it shows the album's ability to stay away from that whole foolproof pop formula and DIY attitude. We have the final song, Tenderness, which is a nice little kind of like happy ending to the album, if you will. Sort of having some hope for humanity. As it shows in some lyrics such as, we've come to increase time in between ticks. There's romance in the slow dances because they're fertile in hush, futile in haste. These are your nerves. This is how they taste. Sort of sees the narrator just tired of wasting all his energy on all the negativity going on in our world, and just needs the fix of a little tenderness, which is a satisfying closing to the lyrics. And sing to the lyrics here. And also the song. And also I love the song's sort of like boogie woogie piano. Really does like drive the song home for me over its kind of fun, optimistic guitar melody before it eventually all fades out. Which kind of makes sense because I think it's interesting how pretty much all songs here on this album transition into one another, creating this almost kind of 30-minute sort of journey, which I do really like. So overall, I'm definitely really digging this album. I wasn't I initially wasn't so sure. I at first did not expect this album to wow me, but upon all the listens that I've given it lately, I've definitely realized that Parquet Courts have really made a huge progression for themselves, both on musical and lyrical standpoints. And they've definitely come out with one of the better rock records, I think, of the past few years. Definitely some of the most compelling rock that you're bound to hear in 2018. So, I didn't think I would say this in the end, but I'm going to have to give Wide Awake by Parquet Courts a 9 out of 10 because it is just like, I dig this record. Go check it out. That's my review of Wide Awake, the new record from Parquet Courts, and I'll see you for episode 202. But my next video is probably going to be my top 16 of the year so far, so get excited about that, will ya?